Tracy, you're a very intelligent girl. You have a lot of admirable qualities. But one day maybe you'll learn that being smart and doing whatever you need to do to get ahead, and yes, stepping on other people to get there, well, there's a whole lot more to life than that.
For election month, more than any other presidency, the Clinton administration has given us material to talk about. The last three movies, Bob Roberts, Wag the Dog, and Bulworth, have all been largely about the scandal and drama surrounding the Clintons. Tonight, that trend continues, but on a much smaller and more abstract scale. We are talking about Alexander Payne's 1999 teen black comedy, Election. Tom Perrotta was inspired to begin writing a novel called Election by the 1992 presidential election and by the numerous scandals that followed during the Clinton administration. The novel was unfinished in 1997 when Albert Berger and Ron Yerxa, two Hollywood producers, sent it to Alexander Payne for a possible project. Alexander Payne and his writing partner Jim Taylor were fascinated by Election's use of several narrators and perspectives and decided to adapt what was there into its own screenplay.
Dear God, I know I don't believe in you, but since I'll be starting Catholic school soon, I thought I should at least practice. Let's see, what do I want? I want Lisa to realize what a bitch she is.
The novel Election was partially inspired by the three-way presidential contest between George H.W. Bush, Bill Clinton, and third-party candidate Ross Perot.
Tonight I say to the president, Mr. Bush, for 12 years you've had it your way, you've had your chance, and it didn't work. It's time to change.
It was also inspired by another story that occurred in 1992 in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, where a conservative principal conspired with his staff to burn the ballots for the school crown at prom because the girl who won was pregnant at the time. Election stars Reese Witherspoon, Matthew Broderick, and for the first time, an unknown Omaha high school senior named Chris Klein, who'd go on to star in the American Pie franchise.
Warm apple pie.
Yeah?
Yeah. Apple pie, huh?
Uh-huh.
Reese Witherspoon plays Tracy Flick, a high school senior with a single mom who gets into a relationship with her math teacher. The math teacher is discovered and fired from the school. Tracy Flick is insanely ambitious and enters the race for school government president, unopposed, thinking she'll just breeze into office.
I spoke with Eliza Ramirez, a freshman, who said she feels alienated from her own homeroom.
However, Jim McAllister, who was played by Matthew Broderick, is the one in charge of the school government election, and who happens to also be the one who discovered his best friend Dave's illicit affair with Tracy Flick. Jim convinces himself that he has a moral duty, mind you, definitely not fueled by the resentment for his best friend's firing, to oppose Tracy Flick's presidential run and to find his own candidate to run against her.
When I win the presidency, we're going to be spending a lot of time together. Lots and lots and lots of time. President and advisor. Harmonious and productive.
Tom Perrotta was partially inspired to write his part of the story by Bill Clinton's relationship with Jennifer Flowers that plagued Clinton throughout the 1992 election.
And on the first page, Mr. M says, the election that turned me into a car salesman took place in the spring of 1992 when Clarence Thomas and Anita Hill were still fresh in everyone's mind, and Jennifer Flowers was the momentary star of tabloids and talk shows.
The moral and ethical question about whether a leader who has an affair is fit to lead the country.
This is not an arrangement or an understanding. This is a marriage. That's a very different thing.
You know, I'm not sitting here as some little woman standing by my man like Tammy Wynette.
This story would later get completely overshadowed by the Monica Lewinsky affair.
Indeed, I did have a relationship with Miss Lewinsky that was not appropriate. In fact, it was wrong. I misled people, including even my wife. I deeply regret that.
Where the 90s took us.
In the morally complicated
That's where the
world of
90s
election,
took us.
Jim McAllister finds himself having an affair with his best friend's ex-wife, Linda.
You hugged me. You kissed me. You're the one who...
The candidate that Jim finds to run against Tracy Flick is a popular football player, handicapped by a ski accident, Paul Meltzler, who he pushes into the race as an empty but popular vessel.
Well, Mr. There's...
Paul,
what's your favorite fruit?
pears.
Pears, good. Okay. Let's say...
Oh, no, wait. Apples.
Apples. Fine.
The third presidential candidate is Paul's sister, Tammy. Tammy is gay, although closeted in a bit of youthful denial, which is explored by the unorthodox narrative structure of the film.
They say if you lie between two of the main wires, Your body just.
This was the most pretentiously emo scene in the entire movie. Tammy enters the race despite her brother, after Tammy's girlfriend leaves her for Paul. Interestingly, the movie version of Election has been hailed as a feminist story where women are often cast as overly ambitious and manipulative. While Tracy Flick is both, she's mostly just a high school senior trying to get out of a bad set of circumstances. The novel version of Tracy Flick is more sexually manipulative, but Alexander Payne takes out that element of the movie. After all, it is Reese Witherspoon, and puts a more sweet innocence to the character. Focusing on multiple perspectives makes all of these morally complex and imperfect characters not heroes or villains, but multidimensional and ambiguous. Jim McAllister's physical and moral collapse gives Matthew Broderick a similar dynamic to Jeffrey Jones' Ed Rooney in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, which is pretty funny to see him embody.
By the way, Mr. Rooney, you left your wallet on the kitchen floor.
Paramount agreed to make the movie under the MTV Films production arm, but was unsure of how to market an R-rated teen movie and only gave Election limited distribution. The lackluster release of Election is one of those cult classic stories where a film didn't truly take off until long after its initial release. Anyway, before I introduce the panel, let me say, please like this video and subscribe to the Movie Night Extravaganza YouTube channel. Also, we are now monetized, so if you have any pressing questions during this live show, send us a super chat. We are absolutely obligated by international law, human rights law, to answer it. We also have a Patreon, patreon.com/Movie Night Extra. All of our after parties are available on there forever. Okay, let me introduce the panel. J. Andrew World, illustrator, book cover artist, comic designer, and artist for Give Them an Argument, co-host of Movie Night Extravaganza and Bad Takes. Conan Neutron, host of Protonic Reversal and the frontman for Conan Neutron and the Secret Friends. You can catch Conan Neutron and the Secret Friends playing this weekend on Friday at the Redwood Bar in Los Angeles with Mario Lally and the Rubber Snake Charmers, and at the Hood Bar in Palm Desert, California on Saturday. Christina Oakes, when she's not dog sitting, you can find her streaming on Twitch at twitch.tv/cosmopolitics. You can find her on Twitter and Instagram at @cosmopolitics and on Patreon. Throw her some subs on Twitch and join that Patreon. Rayyvana, she hosts Rayyactions on Twitch, is a Rebel HQ contributor on TYT, and co-hosts Taking the L and Red Flag. I, of course, am your long-suffering host, Forrest Miller. Without further ado, let's get started.
So much suffering. You forgot to mention the biggest show, which was McCluskey on Sunday. That's going to be like the biggest one of all of them. But thank you.
Yeah, I looked at your thing. I didn't see it, but what? I was gonna say, I'm long suffering because that was the longest intro I think I've done.
It's a long intro.
It was really good.
That's a great glamour shot, Ray. The view. I've seen that before. That I forgot to mention. That's always a great promo photo.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think mine
nice
is great
hairline to it.
Yeah, and it's on the red carpet on our in the background of our intro. It looks like you're walking the red carpet.
Exactly. Dress for success.
Audrey's here before she goes to my grandma's tomorrow.
Oh, sweet baby.
I'm stoked about this. Bummer that Christina can't be with us on this one, but I think this movie is deeply hilarious, and I'm excited to hear everyone's thoughts on it because Ray, just boom, pop, let's go. Hit it. Yeah, go. Let's go.
I'm excited to shoehorn in all the connections to my favorite movie that I tried to push on to you guys for this election series. The War Room, which is a documentary about Bill Clinton's 1992 campaign, which actually highlights his affair that did not break his candidacy and cemented him as the comeback kid.
It's wild to watch that interview where it's him and Hillary Clinton, and Tammy Wynette got all upset that Hillary Clinton used that I'm not standing by my man, which I don't know why she had a Southern accent when she said that, but it's Hillary Clinton.
I was gonna say, did anyone notice the drawl came out in that clip? I was like, whoa, okay.
During that time, she was pretending to have a Southern accent because he was the governor of Arkansas, so she wanted to seem more authentically like Arkansas, but she's from Park Ridge, Chicago. Which is a very, very wealthy area of Chicago.
I was watching the Hitchens when Hitchens was fighting with Bill Maher over the Monica Lewinsky affair and like whether Clinton had committed rape and stuff. And yeah, he was like, she's not from Arkansas, because Bill Maher was like, they're outsiders. They're from Arkansas and they're trying to take them down. It's just not fair. And he's like, no, she's not. She's from fucking Illinois, and the rich part of Illinois, like, to boot.
But she knows who she's talking to, and like is a social chameleon in that way, like in the same way that a lot of politicians, like, again, the accent comes out, and we've talked about a bit about how black candidates suddenly, the ebonics start to show a little bit tactically, and I love that clip's in there, because this is like a perfect example.
Gotta have
one of the reasons
ribs.
Cocaine ribs, exactly. Gotta have them ribs. I love this movie because of all the movies that we're covering. This is the smallest stakes of all of it. This is literally a school election.
Yeah, but
right?
It blows up.
But it's
so
a microcosm of like everything in politics that is like deeply hilarious. Like, for instance, so many pieces of it, but like the fact that, like, I love seeing the Tracy Flick character, which times like, oh, poor oppressed Tracy Flick, and then like it's like, oh, she's basically Hillary Clinton, and maybe she is like really annoying, and both of those ideas can be true. And Matthew Broderick can still be a sleazeball who just has like almost like a Walter White level degeneration of the soul as the movie goes on.
Brought about by his horniness for a minor.
Like, exactly, which is it starts off bad and it gets worse, which is deeply amazing to me.
I mean, I do respect him not acting on his horniness for a minor, because his friend very quickly acted. He was like, yo, I could fuck this minor.
Yeah, well, but the thing is, like, with him though, like, he just gets absolutely like bodied over and over and over again. But like, you're like, oh well, he deserved that. Like when he gets like the bees. Like when his eyes swollen up. Not the bees, not the bees. I love it, and I'm not a big fan of like, oh, here's the biblical punishment for being a bad person, but the moral degradation and like the arc of it is so all encompassing and complete that I think it's beautiful. It's
also like
movie.
Great to watch him, and I know I was talking mad shit about this movie before we got on. I'm not the biggest fan of it. I enjoyed it. I not the biggest fan though, just because it made me uncomfortable. But
you're like me 20 years ago.
Yeah, well, it is an uncomfortable movie, and everybody's kind of terrible too.
I feel like there's also a big jump between like how an affair between a teacher and a student would have gotten covered in like 1999 or something, and now like that we're very much into like, no, that person should fucking be in jail. Like in this, they kind of just let the teacher go, and somehow they covered it up. And like the teacher just kind of went on his way and ended up working in a fucking hardware store or whatever. Like that wouldn't fly today. Like
that's what happened in my high school.
Yeah, I would say, but like today, everybody, like the principal would have to come out and say, "Hey, this happened," and she banged the fucking teacher.
That happened later with my old high school principal.
So apparently
there's lots of fucking going along between the faculty and the students at my high school. So
yeah, who could have predicted? But here's the thing: that's not the crux of the movie. This isn't a teacher-student fucking movie, like which those two exist. That's probably a subgenre in porn.
Yeah, there's a TV show about that was like
you're right,
a couple years ago. It was really awful.
Yeah, with the chick
it was like a female teacher and a male student. It was
really
bad.
Yeah, and she's like a big actress too, and I can't think of her.
Yeah, it's a chick who was in House of Cards, if I remember correctly.
There's also that movie Submission with Stanley Tucci as the fucking college professor. That
people are literally talking about it more and more. But what I love is that like that's an inciting incident in the film, right? Like that's obviously it's a reason why like his Matthew Broderick's friend gets sent off to the where's he freaking end up working?
Some big box store.
Some big like Best Buy or something. Like,
it was like True Value or something. Like
it's a hardware store. You're right. That's completely irrelevant to the point. The point is that like it's a microcosm of how people engage with, or rather do not engage with, politics. And it's no surprise to me that Tammy Metzler and Paul Metzler are the most beloved characters in this, because those are characters that are like, yeah, they have their flaws, but they're like human characters. You're kind of rooting for them, right? Especially Tammy,
does Paul Metzler
who has the fucking vote. Hold on. She has
justice
the
for
vote.
Tammy.
Yeah, justice for Tammy, big time. She's like the dark horse candidate, the like, you know, the one that's just like the burn it down candidate, if you will, right? And is basically just treated terribly and like is not the popular kid in the family, over and over again, but ends up and then like, their punishment is she gets into the Catholic girls' school, which as an aspiring lesbian, not a punishment. It's actually perfect. So it's awesome because he actually gets like rewarded, but like not. But they think it's a punishment, which is deeply hilarious.
Yeah, the look on her face is so fun. Like it's so funny when in that moment, like you're going to Catholic school, young lady.
She's trying like, so hard not to smile. She's just like, oh, really?
Oh, you mean there's just girls there, and I'm not gonna have to talk to any guys? Whoa, that's a punishment. You know, I love guys.
I will say, I think like the epitome of like the part of the movie that really shows you the, you know, the inner psyches of the characters running for the presidential race is when they're praying before the election. Because you've got Tracy just doing this god awful prayer about how it's
the same prayer Pete Buttigieg gives every night, by the way.
Yeah. she's like, he doesn't deserve to win. Fuck him. You know that he doesn't deserve to win.
Yeah, she's also like, let me win so I can do your will.
She also she also insults Tammy, who saved her ass.
Which is amazing.
Her under the bus.
Yeah, literally, like, and again, like
Tammy also calls her a cunt in her prayer, so you know
she deserved it.
Tammy was right. But I'm just saying, these are like dueling prayers right here. You know what I mean? Like, at least she didn't leave anything behind in her prayer.
But then you see that Tammy does love her brother, and she still prays that he wins. And it also fuck Lisa. She's a bitch.
Lisa is the literal
she's
worst.
The worst character.
Like, in this entire movie, it's incredible that like she is actually it's arguably, I mean, I guess there's a Matthew Broderick exception, but like horrible, like horrible.
I feel like Lisa in some ways is how Matthew Broderick's character like views Tracy Flick, right? Like she actually is like the person that's actually like fucking her way to the top of whatever it is. Like she dumps him the second he loses because she doesn't want to be with losers. No haters, no losers. Like I don't know. So she actually is the character that Matthew Broderick is essentially like fixating on Tracy Flick with.
Yeah. I do think that I really like the way that they portray Matthew Broderick's character, because I like the narrative styles where you get in the heads of all of them. And Matthew Broderick really doesn't see himself as a villain at all throughout the film. And he's such an unreliable narrator, but it is fun to watch and be along for the ride. Because when he throws the ballots out, he says, I was just so overwhelmed when I saw Tracy's face through the window, her smile. I just couldn't control myself. Like, you're a grown ass man, okay?
You're literally paid to control yourself. Yeah, exactly.
It's sort of like a callback to the teacher who slept with her, couldn't control himself. He was in love, whatever. But then even at the end, when it's years later and he sees how successful Tracy has actually become, and she's getting into a limo with a congressperson, and he says that he feels sorry for her because her life is so in shambles. But like, you have a crappy job.
He's a docent at a museum.
Yeah,
exactly.
You have an embarrassing job. I'm sorry.
Although self-defense for him in that scene, I too like to throw sodas at limousines whenever I see them in Washington D.C. So I
guess they didn't get
law of averages are going to hit someone that deserves it, right?
Exactly.
They didn't get permits to like film in front of the White House, so Matthew Broderick just took off running for the White House, and fucking Secret Service was like, "Holy shit, there's a guy running for the White House."
That's awesome.
Wow, that story could have ended very differently.
It could have ended like, I mean, he would have gotten probably fucking tased, and it probably would be like, he would be like his character.
Yeah, don't tase me, bro.
Well, and it's such a like. I like that he's sort of like come to terms with where he's at, right? And like has his own like whatever story he tells himself, whatever little lies he tells himself to think that he came out on top or that everything's okay. But then like seeing her, like just something clicks in him and he's just like, and like it's such an honest moment, right? Because he blames everything on her, and he was the instigator. He was the most terrible person the entire time.
Oh yeah,
the entire time. Like at no point was he ever done wrong. Was he? I mean, do you agree? I mean,
No,
I don't think so.
every bad thing that happened to him in that movie was 1, his fault, or 2, he had coming for him.
Like an objective villain, like
Yeah.
who sees himself as the hero. Which how many people in politics can we say the same of, right?
But I mean, he's lecturing about morals and ethics the entire time, and is
Amazing.
both completely immoral and completely unethical throughout the entire thing. He's like,
So great.
there's a difference between morals and ethics, and he's like, by the way, I cheated on my wife. I fucking went after this girl, tried to destroy her.
Which he blames the other woman for.
He blames Delaney Driscoll's character for that. Yeah. Like he which is sort of
No,
like,
he was the
dude,
one that,
you were like, yeah, you were sniffing at the door like the entire time, and then like again, the blame falls on her.
Yeah.
Really?
You kissed me, he says on the phone with his
what
eye bulging out of his
And it's
skull.
amazing. And like, yeah, as things get more, as he gets deeper and deeper, he's just like more and more like screwed up. Yeah, it's the beast thing is just like amazing. Like I love it so much. And as he sits there alone in the hotel room, says a guy alone in a hotel room, like with his champagne on ice, it's just like it's so great. It's like that's a perfect punishment.
and also the way that they catch, like the way that he catches like the glimpse of his wife sitting there with Lisa, or with Linda, I guess, with Linda as he walks in, and it's that slow walk in, and you just hear the baby crying in the background, and he goes to investigate, and there's that like long scene of him like, and what's about to come. That his that's that baby that he fucking like made out with her, had sex with in front of that baby, and like that's that baby crying.
Well, it's just like Ben Shapiro says, making marriage is about man, woman, child.
Yeah.
And that's what that scene was.
It just doesn't have to be your child, I guess.
But he couldn't have
enough.
one. So.
Enough. Well, yeah, enough of that. Save that shit for the after party if we really must. But I think it's like it's great because it's like an auditory clue of like, oh, okay, like here's like something like on some subconscious level he knows what's coming, right?
Yeah.
And like you get to see that like perp walk he does, which is so awesome. and just like he's like, oh, yep, all right. Like he just like this, like not admitting anything, but it's like busted.
He doesn't even say anything to them. He just walks out. Like there's no words expressed, but you're like, this guy.
Well, yeah, that was the what I'm doing for us is for the audio listeners who cannot see the video. I'm sort of like making like what would be the audio equivalent of like just that acknowledgement, right? So sometimes I do that for the audio listeners because I like.
But no, but what I'm saying is that the fact that there weren't any words expressed made the scene better. I think.
What's he gonna say? Like, what's he gonna? Because even if he gave some like lame explanation, it would actually weaken the scene.
He caught me in the shower. Wasn't me. Tell her it wasn't you. And then of course to the crux of it with the, when they're doing the counting, right? So first of all, I also love how completely negligent he is on all of his duties. Like when Tracy hands him like the signatures, he's like, yeah, cool, whatever. All right. And
throws him in the trash.
Throws him in the trash. And it was just like, he just could not possibly care any less about like doing anything like that he's supposed to be doing. And when it comes, like he wants to like skip out on the count so he can, go sleaze about. And then like, but then he has the moment, and again, it's when like like the one election counters like just comes to Tracy. He's like, "What's happening?" And it's like, "Oh yeah, looks good." And then like again, it's her celebrating that makes him angry. So like on some level, he's internalizing all of this. All these women are like against me and like causing me all this harm, and that's when he decides to like
he's like
do what's apparent. Yeah, well, exactly. It's sort of like, and I'm just in Nevada. I was trying to sort it all out, get to the bottom of what's going on. It's like that kind of thing of just like, what if instead of some grand conspiracy that all the Trumpies are always like talking about, it literally is just something as petty as that. Like, so and so slighted me. Fuck them. Like, I'm throwing these votes.
Then I saw Donald Trump on television, got extended, and he was all ready to win that election. And I decided I'm going to throw out 2 ballots.
Right. Exactly. I mean,
he also has this weird like self-suicidal almost streak to it, where like he should know not to fucking throw that shit into his own garbage can and leave it there.
He teaches ethics and morality.
I guess in the book there's like a little more acknowledgement that he fucked up when he threw the ballots away, because like you can see his internal monologue in that, and he's like oh, what have I done? Why didn't I put them in my pocket? Why didn't I flush it down the toilet? Like, why did I just throw it there? And he's like, well, it's too late now. And it's insane because
I just gotta
like,
say, though,
it's not too late. Just pick them back up.
Right. And just real quick, what I love too is that the only reason they're even in that situation at all is because Paul's like, oh, I don't know. It feels weird to vote for myself. I guess I'll vote for Tracy. Like she's cool. She wants it. Like it's like literally because like Paul's a nice guy that they're even in
Very nice guy.
And then he goes to college 1 year later and he tells Jason Biggs about warm apple pie. And then things are just fucked.
But the thing I also love though is the janitor. Like this whole thing comes about
yes,
these slights to the janitor, which obviously that look at the beginning of the film
when he gives them that look.
Yeah, you know he's done shit like this before, and that's why he just kind of like the janitor just like begrudgingly walks away, seeing the mess that he just made. Probably because he's made many messes like that before, and now cleaning up his mess that he left at the end of it.
Oh, that janitor snitching.
You see him. I mean, you see him like give him the eye, like that's your ass, buddy.
Yeah, and
I love it. It's amazing.
There's nothing for the rest of the movie, and so when he's in the principal's office with everybody else, just, and they just have that one close up to the janitor, I lost.
Yeah,
it.
and he's just like, "That's your ass," and he's like, "You know what you did. You know why I did this. Which is amazing because again, it shows that like the Jim McAllister character, terrible, like but low grade terrible to begin with, who becomes like high grade terrible as the movie goes on.
Yeah, as long as we're talking about Matthew Broderick's character. I think the worst scene of his is when he's sitting with Tracy and he, in no uncertain terms, blames her for his best friend getting fired. And when she says he's making slanderous accusations. Because I think that really is like the epitome of he is blaming her for his friend losing his
100%.
job, despite the fact that he sat down with his friend at the beginning of the movie and he had this conversation about ethics and morals and was telling him he was doing something wrong. Like, he clearly did not actually view the situation like that. He was like, oh, she ruined his life, despite the fact that, and we can see it in the scene, even though she's narrating it in a very different perspective when they're at the pizza place or whatever, after they finish some assignment for the, I don't know, yearbook or whatever it was. And he's grooming her. Like he's obviously grooming her. Like this man is abusive towards her. And she's a minor. She's like 15, 16 at the time
like
that's going on. Yeah, it's really creepy. It's awful. And it's you can't blame her for that situation.
No, not at all.
You know, his character just holds this resentment towards her. Because he doesn't view her as like a student or even really a person. She's just this manipulative woman. Like all the other,
it's totally internalized misogyny, which that gets thrown around a lot in times where it's both appropriate and non-appropriate. But whoa, totally appropriate here, like 100%. And it's a great example of that kind of low-grade internalized misogyny, right? That is sort of like it's not these extreme examples where somebody is like literally denying someone a job in a job interview or something, but it's kind of the low grade that like it's very real. And again, it shows his character, and and there's a lot of things about that. I love you see the scene of the pre like modern era of computing, cutting out the other teacher from the photos and stuff like that, like removing him. He's like, oh yeah, of course you wouldn't want like the sex pest to be in all the school photos. Like, of course you don't want that, right?
Even though somehow everybody doesn't know that happened. Like they managed to
well, sure, but
I mean, to be fair, I didn't know that my teacher was
pre-social media. That's important to remember.
Yeah,
in the dark room. Where I was always developing my photography in high school with the other students. So
yeah, and heterosexual grooming
isn't actually. Yeah, I mean,
it's the grooming that's most likely to happen, like by by a huge margin. Like it's just like a teacher and a student, or a priest and a kid in church, or a family member, like a distant family member and somebody else. Like situations where you're supposed to trust the person and they're in a position of power. And that very much is the case with the math teacher. Of course, this is like the dopiest math teacher that's just like tells his friend, hey,
immediately, hey, by the way, here's this illegal activity I'm up to. And then also like writes her a love letter too. Like writes like, yo, dude, like what are you doing?
Says he wants to take her on a vacation.
Your teacher, it's like air quotes too. It's like, oh my God, bro, you deserve to get caught. You deserve everything that like came to you, and like then some. True Value, you should know about this, or whatever the fuck.
So this is
real quick. Another thing, I love Alexander Payne's movies. Big fan. Sideways, I love also. Although you could pretty much call that movie Men Behaving Badly, but I love it for the same reason that it doesn't like make excuses. It just like shows you the terrible behavior. And if you're sitting there being like, oh yeah, this is like a role model, then you're looking at it wrong. And I think he's really good at pointing that out and doesn't get enough credit for it.
He does a lot of work with the Derns.
Yeah, Bruce Dern in Nebraska is oh man, it's one of my favorite roles he's ever been in. He's been in
so this is the author of the actual book talking about the 1992 election and what inspired him to write that part of the book, which I mean I think it's an interesting conversation that Alexander Payne was smart enough to take, because this was an unfinished manuscript. So like he was smart enough to take the parts that make Tracy sexually manipulative, strip them out of it. Because in the book, she's far more, I guess, like sexually manipulative and like, like into this thing, and it kind of blames her more. So he decided, well, Alexander Payne,
it makes it a better movie that she's like a complicated character. I mean, you get to see her home life, right?
These
like,
two other guys
basically stage mommed.
These two other guys are the producers. The other guy on top, and the guy on the bottom that looks like he just escaped from jail or something.
Yeah, it's big dudes rock energy on this whole panel, frankly.
Are the two producers that found his manuscript because they were looking for another manuscript because they wanted Alexander Payne to do it. So that's who's on this panel.
Yeah, well, I think this has been the most interesting thing about having written a story that has been kind of in the public conversation for about 20 years, because I think you can really measure the way that our culture has changed, and I think early on there was just a kind of, I think, very male-centric sense that Tracy was a kind of a villain because she was just this incredibly ambitious, fierce young woman, and Jim is scared of her. And let me just, I think it's useful for me to just tell you like where that Jim's story came from, because it's partly where the book came from. Part of the book just came from the 1992 election, which had three candidates, Clinton, Bush, and Ross Perot. And Tammy is kind of the Ross Perot figure. And, Jim, Paul and Tracy are kind of the major party candidates. But
yes, indeed.
I thought it went on further, but I think I had a second clip of it. But but yeah, I mean, I think the beginning of that conversation is definitely interesting. Like the way that Tracy's been viewed, from kind of almost a villain, like as a male-centric view, being overly ambitious, in the book, I guess
she
more
wants it
manipulative,
all. That's what they always say about
but you
women.
you see why, like her again, her mom like pushes her to like do all this stuff, and she wants to like live up to these expectations. So it's, while she is like basically young Hillary Clinton, which is absolutely horrifying, as much as that is hilarious, you get to see like how she came to be that way, and like to be blamed for that, where she is ultimately blameless in how she's raised, only in how she reacts to it and what she chooses to become. And there's no assurance that she's going to be like this horrible the Dead Zone style like presidential candidate or something. She's just an ambitious young lady who likes winning. All right, and I like winning too. Fine.
And definitely doesn't have daddy issues. Just don't accuse her of having daddy issues. She doesn't.
But I think without that scenes of showing like her home life and like what that's like, I think it would be very easy to just put her as a villain, and I think she's not. I think the only villain in this is Matthew Broderick. Everyone else is shades of gray, and
as Lisa,
and Lisa, who flat out sucks too. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I think Matthew Broderick has shades of gray. He's just so
there is shades of gray, but he has choices to make, and at every point,
like dark
he makes
gray to almost black.
Right.
Yeah,
like he starts off like
very dark gray shades.
He starts off as chaotic neutral, and he definitely ends up like going down the line.
Well, he's one of those guys.
Paul and Tammy are the only ones that are blameless in this.
He's one of those guys that really, really, really is into the idea that they're a do-gooder and they're like helping out and everything, and then he just turns out to be like a guy that completely sucks,
doing only bad. Exactly, like this is like objective badness.
All right, so this is the longer
Good,
clip
bad,
that I was
sure.
looking for.
Sort of talk maybe a little bit chronologically about how election happened, and you know, I think for me, I got really interested in the election of 1992. Part of it was I was unemployed that year, and I was just spending a lot of time following the election. But I also think I felt that, you know, that sense that maybe we have this year also. Just, you know, it had been just a long era of Republican dominance. You know, you had Reagan for 8 years, and then the first George Bush. So it had been a 12-year run of conservative dominance of American politics, and old school Cold War, you know, 50s style American government. And here came Bill Clinton in 1992, and it did feel like a generational shift, but it also felt like you know, his wife was a new character on the scene, and he almost immediately in the primaries, you know, brought this aura of sex scandal with him. And on the first page, I was just rereading the book, which I haven't looked at in quite a while. And on the first page, Mr. M says, the election that turned me into a car salesman took place in the spring of 1992, when Clarence Thomas and Anita Hill were still fresh in everyone's mind, and Jennifer Flowers was the momentary star of tabloids and talk shows. All year long, my junior current events class returned again and again to a single theme, what the media called the character issue. How are private virtue and public responsibility intertwined? Can you be an adulterer and a good president, a sexual pervert and an effective impartial member of the judiciary? And you know, I took that question, that was sort of the question of the Clinton era, and put it into this book that's set in high school, and really gave all of my characters this sort of public life and a private life, and it was the interplay of those things that kind of defined the story. And you know, I was thinking about it today, and I do feel like Election was so much a book of the Clinton years. And one of the reasons the book and the film have lasted so long is that I think we've been living in the Clinton era right up to 2016, and even into the Me Too era. That whole period was sort of defined by the Clintons, by their marriage, by some of the questions, that the sexual scandal that defined that presidency, you know, injected into the American political discourse.
That's interesting. That's an interesting take on things.
Yeah, I mean, I wish it wasn't still the era of the Clintons.
I mean, I feel like I foisted, well, the royal we foisted a lot of Clinton era movies on election night extravaganza, but I think it, unfortunately, is like we were talking about in the private chat, like it sucks that like there haven't been a lot of good election movies in recent years in the Obama and Trump eras, and I would love to see one.
Which I mean, you know, with Trump, really, there should be. Like, you feel
even
like
the Bush era, like there wasn't that many, because I mean, this was
the only one that's very head of state is good, which we're doing next.
Yeah.
and the Chappelle Black Bush sketch.
Yeah,
which is a sketch. It's not a movie. I'm talking about for film.
No,
but there have been depictions. But
I mean, we're in the era of prestige. Like, we're in the era of like prestige TV, though. So that's, I mean, that kind of makes sense that like a lot of the pop cultural stuff that's like relevant to politics or like relevant to like, you know, anything.
Yeah, it's not going to be a feature film. It's more likely to be a streaming series.
Yeah, and there have been. I mean, there's been a bunch of, you know, political streaming series that kind of like tackles different parts of.
Yeah, there was that Netflix show with the kid who like does the singing and dancing show. I can't remember what it's called, but it's good.
Well, there was one with Kevin Spacey.
Well, yeah, that's House of Cards and that's again, marred by the fact that it's Kevin Spacey, right? But
he still once a year goes in character as the character from fucking House of Cards and gives a very creepy holiday message to everybody where he's like, "I'll be back." And what the fuck is that accent? He's like, "That's a North Virginia accent. I have never met anyone from North Virginia that sounds like that." He has a very
most
weird
people
accent.
from Northern Virginia sounds like the rest of the country, just wherever they're from.
Save it for the after party. So anyway, there's a lot of depictions of stuff, but it's not really feature films so much anymore, right? Because and that's I would love if there was, but yeah, it is crazy because I think about how many of the movies we covered have been Clinton era, right? A lot of them, and one of the reasons why is because I think that's when there's a different connection to politics now than there was then, and part of that has to do with the rise of new media and social media and connections that way, the instant availability of information, instant availability to answer information and to answer people in positions of power. But then also to have like catharsis instead of power for politics, which is unfortunate. That's the part that nobody focuses on, and everybody thinks that being able to dunk on someone is the same thing as having power, and it just fucking isn't. I mean, it's great to do both, ideally, but
one of the more interesting things about like the latter half, I guess, of the 20th century is the fact that we went from presidents seeing their role as like expansive and somebody like LBJ who was actually trying to transform society. Was he successful at it? No, but after post Kennedy assassination, when it's pretty clear that like if you go too far trying to transform the country, you're probably going to either die or be taken down somehow. Presidents kind of
and the Great Society is most enduring social safety net comes from the Great Society, not from the New Deal. And not to say that, I mean, between the two of them, don't get me wrong, I'm unabashed FDR over LBJ, especially the fact that LBJ was a dick. But the Great Society arguably accomplished more. And it was, again, that. So, and now it's interesting that there's stories about that election, but the election is not the interesting part of that time period at all.
Yeah.
It's about the policy.
Although I don't know, the election of 1964 was pretty interesting. They
64 is interesting, but not the 68.
They slammed the fuck out of fucking Goldwater. Well, 68 was kind of interesting too, just because of all the protest stuff that was happening at the same time.
But it's a different. But it's not the election. It's what you're missing what I'm saying. The election is not the interesting part. It's the story around it.
No, but the RNC, I mean, RNC and DNC both getting kind of intercepted by radicals, and the actual shit show that happened on the floor.
The tangential aspects to it, obviously. Watergate. There's a little movie called All the President's Men. It's pretty good. Robert Redford found out about it on the train. I learned this month. During the candidate, which I was like, that's kind of amazing. Candidate.
I think Nixon was another president that saw his role as kind of transformational. Didn't really do anything to transform anything, but that's how he saw it. But his view was foreign policy, whereas FDR's was also foreign policy. LBJ was the last president to be like, maybe we could transform American society. And getting towards, getting towards Reagan, but also towards Bill Clinton, it's like the understanding that we're out of that era, right? Like the government's job is now just to step out of the way of fucking private companies, deregulate them and to kind of just chill. Like you're supposed to be managing a stable economic and domestic system rather than kind of being a transformative leader. So then
that's right. And hence forcing that disconnection from politics, right? Like from the 1920s was the same sort of way. People felt very disconnected from politics. And what were the biggest figures at the time? Well, there were these magnates, these corporate magnates and things like say Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and et cetera, et cetera. Right? It goes on and on. But it's similar. History doesn't repeat itself, but sometimes it rhymes. With a lot of this stuff. And I think you're really onto something. That probably was the first big transformational societal moment in our, not even our lifetimes, before our lifetimes, but in even recent history. And by the fact that we now focus on the celebrity, Barack Obama, one can argue, I understand Reagan was an actor, but the first celebrity president, right?
Yeah.
He was cool.
Gotta get them ribs.
Gotta get them ribs. and you can't, because the only reason Head of State works is it was made before Barack Obama was on the national scene. That's the only reason Head of State works. Because otherwise it would have been poisoned by Obama. It would have been poisoned by what we know of as Obama, et cetera. But the fact that he was a celebrity and he was in the news and he was cool and this and that, et cetera, et cetera.
He was he was like Kennedy for the social media age, right?
Exactly. So that's what I'm getting at. It's hard to make a movie about that. How do you make a movie about that, right? Because it's already real life is like the movie. And in that same way, how do you make a satire about something like Trump? Well, they already did. It was called Bob Roberts, and we covered it earlier in the month. And Tim Robbins did it in 1992.
Yeah, it's funny how many of these. It's funny how many of these Clinton era movies not like got revisited with people being like, "Well, in the Trump era, this speaks to it." And it's like politics had gotten so boring and so degraded by that point. I think like the reason that all these Clinton movies, era movies, are so like interesting is because Clinton's entire thing was just scandal because there wasn't really that much going on. Like the only time he would bomb something is like when he had a scandal, as we talked about with Wag the Dog.
Wag the Dog. Right, exactly. Like, and this is one of the reasons why I'm so glad we started with the candidate instead of something like Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, because I think it tells more to the era that we're in now to have that history and to see that like, oh no, like you have this this degradation of morals. Much like a certain Matthew Broderick that happens, and ethics that when people get to elected office, and that the acquisition of power becomes everything. And then there's that whole thing of trying to control the media narrative and, weaving stories and things like it's all tied together, people. Put it together.
And I also think that, the Nixon era and the, the following, House Select Committee on Assassinations and, the Committee on the CIA, like all of those, like the Church Committee, like I feel like all of those kind of burn people out.
Iran-Contra.
Like for like wide-ranging corruption scandals. So the only scandal you could really have at that point is some kind of like TMZ, like, yo, the president got topped in the Oval Office. Let's talk about it for the next 10 years. Like,
and lo, they did.
I'll say another thing I think about this movie that is similar to the election of Bill Clinton is how furious Tracy is throughout the film that people who she thinks are not hard workers are getting ahead of her in life and making, because that was a huge theme in the 1992 election. Bill Clinton was this idea that Bill Clinton, he's never done anything. Everything he's ever gotten in life has been handed to him, which is ironic coming from the George H.W. Bush campaign. But that was their like primary argument against him, was like, this is a man who has never had to work for anything in his life. Everything has just fallen into his lap. He doesn't deserve to be president. As opposed to, apparently George H.W. Bush,
the one who works hard, right?
Yeah,
the hard working hard at being mediocre because he's doing a fantastic job at it.
No, he's working hard at being a spook. That's what he's working hard at.
I mean, he doesn't have to work at that. That's literally who he is. He doesn't have to work at that at all. But no, I think that's an incredible point because, like, I think as much as Tracy Flick basically has big young Hillary Clinton energy, and one can say Elizabeth Warren energy, if one was to be uncharitable, but that's the thing that's like, oh yeah, that seems more like Sarah Palin or something, right?
Yeah.
Of just like getting pissed off about like, oh, well, they don't deserve that.
Oh, they don't deserve that. They can't even see Russia from their house.
Which I will say,
how are they going to negotiate?
It makes her more sympathetic. Is like when like we were talking about, you see her home life, you see how hard she feels like she's had to work, and then after.
Stage mommed so bad.
But like her the stage mom thing is a bit like her mom. I think her mom seemed pretty young, right? And this is like one of those like things that they never actually say out loud in the film. But I think her mom's a stage mom because she missed out on stuff because she got pregnant early.
Yeah.
And the dad just dipped or whatever.
Yeah.
And
but that's probably because he was really
Matthew
young.
Broderick's secretly the dad. Like you don't.
Oh God, I hope not.
Whoa.
But there's also that scene even after when she goes to college, she gets to Georgetown, and she's surrounded by nepotism babies, and she doesn't feel vindicated. She's worked so hard to get where she is, and she still doesn't feel vindicated. And I think that that's a really salient point because. Even when she gets to Washington, they don't talk about it, because that's the end of the film. But that she's still surrounded by these nepotism babies who didn't have to work to be where they are. So, to some extent, when Matthew Broderick's character says, like, she's probably still unhappy, he's probably right.
She's probably successful and unhappy, which is a great combination.
It is inarguable that she has reached a level of success that he never could.
Matthew Broderick, who is unsuccessful and unhappy. Like,
exactly. And pretending like he's happy. Yeah, exactly.
Well, only for us though. Everybody goes home and he's fucking miserable. But I think it's interesting also that like those kinds of people are never satisfied, and the game of politics, right? Like the game of politics, like you have to try to relate to people, and somebody like Tracy Flick or Hillary Clinton cannot relate to people, right? Like
it's not their sweet spot at all.
Yeah.
like again, and no judgment to actual politics and policy, like. Yeah, I mean, people that are even close to Hillary Clinton will be like, "Yeah, she's really good in small groups and terrible in crowds." Like it's and that's where that big robot energy comes from. And like Elizabeth Warren, who I think is a great policymaker, I really don't want to get a discussion about Elizabeth Warren, but like the whole beer thing, like that whole thing, where it's like, it was like, stop.
Just terrible political instincts. Terrible political instincts.
Like her thing, I'm gonna get him. I did this ancestry.com test. And I'm gonna put that to no, you won't.
Which is like
there's absolutely no.
It's like
you don't understand how this works. They're just gonna. What do? First thing afterward, well, Pocahontas, ha ha ha. Like it didn't matter. It didn't matter. You look like a fucking idiot.
Yeah, it was embarrassing. Plus, it's
I'm so pissed about that. Clearly,
that's not how the Cherokee Nation does their citizenship, where they don't use blood quantums to determine
it was
whether
brimming over with wrongness at every aspect of it. It was like no, like, and the thing is, nobody in your circle was like, maybe don't.
Which is the thing that I think like the dummies that have been raised in that environment, like the empty husk out people, kind of that like the Bill McKay at the end of The Candidate, like the people that are just empty husks, just kind of repeating fucking platitudes. They do the crowd work really well. They do the connection with people really well.
There's just nothing inside.
Yeah.
They don't believe in anything other than
and I think that it makes people like Hillary Clinton or like Tracy Flick completely resentful of the fact that the thing that they're probably going to be maybe not competent governors, but like they feel like they're going to be competent governors, and if they can get past the whole politics part. But like politics is the game, like, and they're just not good at that. They're just terrible at that. She's like trying to say like
policy ticks.
She's like, a win for me is a win for all of us, and it's like, no, it's not. A win for you is a win for you. Like,
no, I think that's an excellent point, and I think that's one of the things that make the Tracy Flick character so interesting, because you can imagine like a sequel where she is like a presidential aspirant, but miserable. And like surrounded by, I mean, it's almost Veep to a certain degree, right? Like where it's sort of like you have like, this person with all the right qualifications, and then you have like, oh yeah, but then there's this guy who's like, whose qualifications being handsome, and like, everyone loves him more than they
which
love
there's
you.
a second book of Election called Tracy Flick Can't
Really?
Win. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Make that into a Prestige TV series. Bring back Reese Witherspoon.
It was published in 2022, apparently.
Shoot in my veins. Yeah, let's go. The time has arrived, friends.
And I think her as an adult that never left high school politics behind.
Like I said, I would love it if she was like in real politics, and like you could basically use it as a way to farcically tell like the 2016 election, and whatever. Anyway, whatever.
This is also apparently Obama's favorite political movie. I think he says.
I thought it was Bulworth.
No, he said he wanted a Bulworth.
He wanted a Bulworth moment. That's right.
But this was on one of his lists.
Which I think was when he said, he's like, gotta have them ribs and some pussy too.
Do you guys remember the "I'm in Love with Obama" song?
Yeah.
Thank you. I brought that up on that episode, and everyone was like, "Huh, what?" And then they moved on to something else. I'm like, "Oh,
that is the epitome of culture." She won a Guy's Choice Award from Spike TV.
and then in 2012, she was like, "I'm keeping my options open."
Right, exactly. Well, remember Reverend Jeremiah Wright was like he kept like that big, she had those big old titties. Said Obama on them.
Could have changed her name
knows him.
to like Muff for Mitt and had like a bush or something. Like I don't know. Like she could have done something there. She could have done,
definitely an after party territory now.
But I voted for Obama because of Reverend Wright.
Right, exactly. But I think that right, exactly. There you go. Like how do you make a farce that's like that absurd? Like that was an actual like real life, early viral moment. And it's like you can't. It's like a sketch or something, but it's like no.
It was a sketch though, because it was College Humor, the earliest iteration of that channel, College Humor. She was just an actress. They just cast her to make this like jokey video. Like, wasn't the Obama campaign that did it, of course, but like I could totally see campaigns actually sort of employing those tactics now and like hiring someone to make like a, I don't know, not a Joe Biden one, Jesus Christ, but like Donald Trump would 100% have like cheerleaders and like small outfits, like making a video about how much they love him.
Buttigieg probably hired somebody to do the, to choreograph that dance.
Oh my God, we will not. Talk about it.
No, but like at the same time,
Buttigieg boy.
Like
no.
Mad TV was killing it harder than SNL at that point, and they had the Umbrella remix that they had where it was I want to be under Barack Obama.
Yeah.
And they had what the fuck is her name? I think it was like Nicole something or another. She's been in a lot of stuff dressed as Hillary Clinton, and I can't remember if it was. I think it was Keegan Michael Key as Obama. And they were like,
J Hutch, we're not doing Face in the Crowd. I love Face in the Crowd. It didn't make it in for this month. We're definitely going to do it at some point. It's a great movie, but yeah,
absolutely.
There's a lot of 70s political thrillers that like they're not election movies at all, but like I feel like that should be like a topic for a future month.
Well, there's a bunch of stuff we didn't. I mean, I feel like with this month we really kind of we finally honed in. I mean, not to dislocate a shoulder, pat ourselves on the back or anything. I think we did a really good job with the narrative features.
I'd have been better if you put in War Room, but
Well, the War Room's a doc, though. It's a doc, Ray.
It's such a good documentary.
It's great. Look, we'll do a bonus episode with the War Room. All right.
I don't think we've done a doc.
We've never done.
No, we haven't. We've never done it. I mean, and like
it's one of the best. It's my favorite documentary. I think that it's really
good.
Yeah.
I think that watching that documentary and then watching the Pete Buttigieg documentary are like the two opposite ends of the spectrum, and it's like really. That's what I had just watched War Room, and then I watched that horrendous documentary, and I did like a comparison of the two styles of like documentary filmmaking. While I was live tweeting it. Well, very drunk on wine. I used to get so pissed
at people on this show, names not mentioned, for bringing up that documentary exists. That's where I'm at. I'm not only not hate watching it, I'm mad. I'm like, fuck, that exists.
It shouldn't. It was the worst thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, no, but I like that. I like that even in a documentary made by Amazon to like promote Pete for the future. You know what I mean? Like they're like we're gonna promote this guy for the future. He's gonna be a good candidate. Like this is supposed to be a campaign thing for him. Even then, the emptiness inside of him is just so apparent. That like you end up feeling bad for his fucking husband by the end of it.
I know Conan probably has, but have you read Transmetropolitan?
No,
it's a great graphic novel series. Absolutely check it out. But he is literally the Smiler, which the description of the
which
Smiler
I would say that's also Bill McKay to a certain degree. But like
the Smiler, by the way, was inspired by Bill Clinton.
It was, but it's closer to Pete Buttigieg for sure. I 100%
yeah, truly
agree.
like that description of him in the comic literally is a description of Pete Buttigieg. Just the emptiness in the eyes, the way the
John Edwards too.
Yes.
Well, what makes the Pete Buttigieg documentary, and then we can jump to Andy's casting stuff and then one-liners. But
wait, really quickly. Someone in the chat said, "Does Napoleon Dynamite count as an election movie?" I should have put on my vote for Pedro's shirt because it 100% does.
Yeah, no, that's
it absolutely does.
If this is if election is an election movie, this
Flavor Flav said it.
yeah. Say his name. Please, thank you.
But Andy, what's your casting stuff that you want?
Well, first of all, when they were he was gonna the director whose name just completely escaped my head,
Alexander Payne
brought this to the studio. The studio did not want Matthew Broderick to star in it. They were like, "Can you go with Tom Cruise?" And he's like, "No." And then they said Tom Hanks, and I'm like, "Oh, that would be." Because remember, Tom Hanks used to play like that kind of scumbag, but just never,
he wasn't
later
just...
on. Yeah, it was like, oh, that would have been interesting. And Chris Klein, almost this was his first acting role ever.
Yeah, I have a little feature that I found from.
Does it talk about his grandmother in it?
No, it doesn't talk about his grandmother. But this is
okay. I got to tell you this real quickly.
Okay.
He almost turned down this role because he didn't want his grandmother to see him get a.
Oh yeah, I think it does talk about that.
Oh,
I didn't. I'm pretty sure it talked about it. Yeah.
Alexander was doing some location scouting in one of the high schools, and this big gorgeous kid was walking down the hall.
The principal of my high school introduced him to me.
And I'm just looking at this, going, wow, this is sort of like just as how I had imagined Paul Metzler to be.
There was definitely some pressure to get a bigger name.
But that kid just stayed in my brain.
And Alexander got on the phone and invited me to make Election. But I told him, I'd really love to make this movie with you, but the character is getting a blowjob. What if my grandma sees this? And he laughed and he said, listen, it's a movie.
Omaha native Chris Klein is starring in his first motion picture, Election.
That's one of the luckiest lucky breaks in all of Hollywood. He gets to be this fresh face who shows up out of nowhere.
The stars just aligned.
He just brought a real innocence to it. I just loved him.
You're going to be the next heartthrob out there?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know.
He's blushing.
He was able to communicate the lack of irony that we thought Paul would have. I felt so lucky to have found him. I can't imagine anyone else for that part.
Do you have any aspirations of being an actor at the time, or I mean, was that in your head? And I actually don't know the complete story, so I don't know if you were already aiming at coming to Los Angeles and becoming a star, or if this really just kind of took you by surprise.
In Omaha back in the late '90s, for me to say out loud that I wanted to be an actor was kind of a silly thing to say, because not too many people will take you very seriously, especially if you say you want to go to Los Angeles and be an actor. They say, okay, sure, Lincoln is where you go to university and study business and do your thing. So it was kind of something that I kept to myself. But in the summer of 1997, I was a senior in high school, and I remember me and my very dear friend Brian Shank from high school were running around the track of the high school, and he said, "So what are you going to do? You're not going to Nebraska. What are you going to do?" And I said, "I'm going to be a professional actor." And he said, "Yeah, I'm going to be the president of the United States." And I said, "No, seriously, man, I'm going to go be a professional actor." And so I did absolutely have a dream.
You already knew it. And how did it all happen? Basically, was there they held auditions in Omaha?
Alexander Payne was scouting high schools. He was on a location scout in Omaha. He's from there. He went to Creighton Prep High School in Omaha, Nebraska. He was scouting locations, and he scouted mine. I went to a kind of a newer high school. He didn't pick mine. He actually, the high school that is portrayed is a high school called Papillion La Vista. They beat us in the state football finals, but whatever. And,
That's awesome.
That's very sweet.
It is a real high school, though. It's
and it beat them in the state finals. And he still remembers it, and he's gonna go there, and he's gonna give them a piece of his mind, and then he's gonna drop a bunch of money on them and go, "Yo, I don't fuck with you guys, but here's a check. I grew up. I'm big. I became that." Oh, Conan froze.
Okay, well, I do have one more tidbit for casting for you. When Reese Witherspoon auditioned, she finished it up going, "I really think you should cast me because I'm perfect for the role."
That's perfect. That is perfect.
That is what landed her the part. So
she didn't know whether she wanted to be Tammy or whether she was going to be like she applied. I guess she wanted to do either role, and then ended up being Tracy Flick. But like, it's interesting to picture her being. She wouldn't have been able to be Tammy. I couldn't.
She would not have been a good one.
No, but it is a much more interesting part, and I can understand why you'd want to do that.
Yeah.
It's just, when as an actor,
doesn't fit her.
No, she's so great at those type A type roles, like Legally Blonde, which is a fantastic movie.
I feel like her I feel like the treatment though of like gay people in this is really actually a lot better than you'd expect it to be for like a 90s movie.
Yes. Like it was I was surprised the first time I watched this movie. I was like, oh, there's gay characters, and they aren't like constantly making jokes about them being gay or
all the jokes are about.
That great line though at the beginning there with like, I'm attracted to the person, but I've only ever been attracted to women.
Yeah, well, that's that.
But
Like,
that's
you know,
like you're 15, 16 years old. That's exactly like the type of thing you might think.
Yeah.
So it's like it's accurate.
and you know, her girlfriend who's just the worst. But is like completely in denial about her own sexuality, it seems like, and she's in denial. Like, it's interesting that she's also in denial about her sexuality. Like, well, I am attracted to, you know, women, but like I might also be attracted to guys. Who knows? I mean, I never have been before, but like I feel like it's a very honest portrayal of teenagers like trying to grapple with their own sexuality. Damn,
Wait,
Conan froze again.
Just looks so stern in that picture.
Yeah, I would look angry. I was like, did I do something? Oh no.
he's just looking at me again.
Should we do one-liners and then hope that he gets back in, or wait?
That is his
I mean, he's
bit.
I'm not gonna step on his bit. Andy, you want to do
Do not step on my bit. I will murder you in your sleep. We'll murder you. Don't draw attention to it. That's why I was saying secret in the private chat. Don't draw attention to it.
Well,
Anyway,
I mean,
yeah.
they all
Letterboxd.
noticed when you were like,
Well, you don't have to draw attention to it, and it sounds crazy on the audio podcast. It sounds crazy. People sound like they're freaking out, and you're like, and it's like when you listen to like a live record, and people are like, "Yeah, woo!" Like, what was happening on stage? What was it? I don't know. I can't hear it.
Hey, can't somebody describe it to me? What's going on stage over there? Grateful Dead.
Honestly, the best thing to do when you're listening to live albums, take acid so you can see the live show, and you'll know what the audience is cheering for.
There you go. Letterboxd is a place for film. It's a place for film lovers talk at with and to each other about the films they love, the films that they didn't love, the films they were weirdly thirsty for, weirdly judgy for. No Siskel's, no Eberts, bottom up democracy. Everyone gets to have their say, not just the big boys, if you will. And those, of course, best described in the work in your chat having for the brick wall classic one-liner format. These are the one-liners for election. Forrest, roll them. This is why I'm scared of bees.
that's good. That's good.
Yo, I haven't gotten stung by a bee in like a few years, and I always like don't want to point it out because then I feel like it's gonna happen.
It's definitely gonna happen now.
Tomorrow.
Be like, oh, there's not even bees left anymore. It's too cold. What the fuck?
Not the bees. Sorry, I had to do it. Joker for girls with awards for perfect attendance. Both Netflix. 2024. That's good. Yeah, solid card.
Yeah, I fuck with it. Yeah, it really is kind of Joker. Like when she goes, she even does the dance when she fucking destroys all of the. By the way,
Joker 1999.
That's an Ennio Morricone score.
Navajo amazing. Joe. Yeah.
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 It's great. The three true political parties: himbos, lesbians, and Reese Witherspoon.
Yes, vote for lesbians.
I'm happy we didn't get any Reese Witherspoon presidents yet.
We love a himbo king, don't we, folks?
Donald Trump, king of the himbos.
I would have voted for the fake Keanu Reeves guy. That's for Andy, by the way.
Warm apple pie.
Well, I mean, he totally is the just like a Keanu Reeves kind of guy.
Yeah, he's so
Jacked
nice.
Keanu Reeves.
Yeah.
He's like, I just want my adopted sister to be happy and safe, and she's like, yeah, kind of like
those cupcakes look good as fuck, though. Can't lie.
They did.
Yeah. I thought there was a chance though it was gonna be like poisoned with like a laxative or something, and that was what was gonna drive him over the edge. Like, all right. Well,
can I read this one?
Yeah, read it. Oh.
My thoughts on some of the characters. Tracy is definitely a Republican. Agree. Tammy is definitely a leftist. Hard agree. Paul is the best person in the universe, and we don't really deserve him. And I just know McAllister smells like cheese. that note is exactly spot on. He 100% smells like not any cheese, but like stinky cheese.
Broadcasting here. Yeah. Well, when life gives you lemons, say you also like bananas.
That line always cracks me up.
Yeah.
He was right though with his first answer. Pears is the correct answer to that question.
This brought to you by Big Pear. Dear God, thank you for all your blessings. You've given me so many things, like good health, nice parents, a nice truck, and what I'm told is a large penis.
That dude definitely does have a large penis.
Yes.
He got BDE.
I voted for Tammy.
Solid.
Yeah, I mean her speech, it would have rallied anybody to her cause.
You either die a Ferris Bueller or live long enough to see yourself become Jim McAllister. Those are Letterboxd one-liners for election. Please follow the show, Moving Extravaganza. That's your host, Forrest, over there on Letterboxd. I am Conan, Harmonious and Productive Neutron. Follow me there as well. I'm all over that biz. J. Andrew also likes bananas and also likes weird-ass movies that you may or may not know that you needed. He's on Letterboxd. I don't think... Ray, have we convinced you to be on Letterboxd yet?
I'm not on Letterboxd yet.
I'm refusing
down.
How are you going to give the War Room 5 stars if you don't go on Letterboxd?
I'll just talk about it in every single chance that I got.
As I was saying it aloud, I was like, I know the answer to this. So. So that's that bit. Gentle World, take it away.
All right, you're watching this right now on YouTube, so please do the YouTube things, like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell, and watch the video to the end because that actually helps other movie fans find our content. Follow us on Twitter. We also have a Twitter community where we do polls, and I try the extra mile to make the polls amusing. I'm surprised how many I also like bananas also got votes.
People do like bananas, to be fair.
Yes.
It's a powerful vote. It's a power couple.
Yeah,
big banana.
No.
Big banana.
Which
Dole,
I mean,
they're big funders of it.
Not sponsored, but
not sponsored.
Yeah, we'll take your blood money, Dole.
Hell yeah.
Yes. We also have a Patreon. If you pop over on Patreon, you can support our channel, get the after parties, have access to those forever. And we are actually developing content going forward. So we shall, see what those are, but haven't made it yet, but we will soon. I think, maybe. I don't know. I'm confused. Nobody tells me anything. I'm just too busy drawing. I do want to make sure I plug Christina, even though she's not here, because she's not feeling well, and we need to support her. So she support her Patreon if you can. I believe is she actually streaming or not? Because I know she wasn't feeling well.
Is she against this stream? I mean, she is currently streaming. She's not currently streaming right now. I don't think. I don't know. What do I know from it?
Yeah, I know. I know. At one point,
I'm just trying to stay streaming on this show. Let them see what she's up to. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. But the bottom line is she's going to be trying to picking up streaming. Doing a little extra streaming around the holidays. Please support her over on her channel and support her Patreon as well. Conan, I know you're on tour. You have a couple of tour dates coming up real soon, right after the holidays. If you're with us. He's maybe not with us. Maybe I'll plug myself, and then we'll go to you. But tickets are going to be available on Friday for the Give Them a Revolution live show, which will feature Ben Burgess, Jason from This Is Revolution, the
Navajo
Reckoning, Matt and
who
Sam Cedar's supposed to be there. Emma Vigeland, Bhaskar Sanskara, myself, and and Koopa might be there too. So
I'm probably gonna head down to the city.
Yeah,
my invite got lost in the mail. Ray and I will be counter programming.
We'll be streaming together, talking about the War Room.
Exactly. Yeah. When is that? That's when we're doing the War Room stream.
Tickets go on sale on Friday, so look for that. And also. If you're a fan of my artwork, check out the Duretti Shadow of the People issue 2 is for sale. I did, up on Kickstarter. I did one of the variant covers, just like I did for issue 1. So check that out. Conan, you're gone again. You were here when I talked about myself, and then you disappeared. So I can't talk about you. So Ray.
Yeah, I'm doing finals right now, so I haven't been streaming on my channel or making Rebel HQ videos because it's been hectic. But you can follow me on Twitch, twitch.tv/Rayyvana. And you can follow me on Twitter until it self-implodes at Rayyvana TTV. If you want to see a bunch of Tim Pool fans, call me a groomer. So check me out there. But you can also see my stream Rayyactions every Thursday except for this Thursday because it's Thanksgiving, at 5 p.m. Eastern on TYT's Twitch channel, twitch.tv/TYT.
All right, that was like a champion speed. That was like a champion speed plug.
Yeah, it's amazing because I keep stalling because Conan's not here. But Conan has a great show called Platonic Reversal. You should check that out. You should also check out his live shows, which are happening in California after Thanksgiving. What's the first one?
LA with Mario Lally and the Rubber Snake Charmers and Noi, which is Bill from Federation X and Ferdy from Four No Blows. New band, they're great. Fatso Jetson, Palm Desert, and then McCluskey. The rescheduled McCluskey shows in Oakland, my hometown, which is going to be.
It's going to be on Sunday.
Sunday, everybody.
On Sunday. That's
Sunday.
Get your tickets.
That's when they rescheduled it for.
Yeah,
and then he'll be coming back, and he has Jerry Casal coming on for the first show that he's back at Platonic. I know that information.
Yeah, which if you are a Patreon, if you're one of his Patreon, you should be able to access that show by now, if I remember correctly. On his Patreon, Platonic Reversal.
I think the one that he did the other day is the one that you can get now. I don't know if he's done the Jerry Casal one yet, but yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, maybe I'm getting confused because I could do that. Get confused.
You are getting confused. Paul Rossler was on this last week from the Screamers, Nina Hagen's band. He's great. It's amazing. Jerry Casale is going to be the first episode back next week after I'm back from tour. So
I got that.
Okay.
I said
which is great because he's got a new EP and I'm very excited for that. And then eventually I'm going to have East Bay Ray and Klaus Florian again.
And speaking of great new albums or albums, since it's right around the time for holiday season, please go to neutronfriends.bandcamp.com and get some Conan music.
Yeah, and you can get the merch. I have that shirt that he has on there. That's what I call dudes yelling. I like that shirt.
Yes.
But
right.
Yeah, I think that's it for plugs. Ray, let's hear some final thoughts.
Final thoughts. I think the way that they narrate the film from multiple characters' points of view is interesting because they're all unreliable narrators in their own right, except for Paul Metzler because he's too stupid to be an unreliable narrator. Justice for Tammy. She is the best character in the film. But ultimately, I think that they all have redeeming qualities aside from Matthew Broderick's character. But I would recommend everybody check it out. And pears are the best fruit.
Yeah,
you heard it right here, folks.
Pears are a fucking good ass fruit. I like grapefruits too. Grapefruits
are good.
Yeah, but not all the time though. Like they're good in the morning. Like I feel like you can wake up with that nice fucking grapefruit.
That is the only correct time to eat a grapefruit. Yes.
Yeah, it's weird to eat a grapefruit like at night or something.
If you want a grapefruit at night, you could just have a grapefruit flavored White Claw.
True. Although those are not my favorite White Claw flavor whatsoever. Andy, let's hear some final thoughts.
This movie ruined Doggy Style.
You're just picturing, one of your
it's
students.
just Reese Witherspoon going, Mr. World, yes, Mr. World.
The way you're saying "fill me up" would take me out of it. Like if someone's like "fill me up," I'd be like, "Ugh."
Yeah, that's a jarring, sexy thing to say for sure.
Yeah,
and then the whenever the heads slide in there, and they're saying that too. They're saying it's so like even worse.
Well, that's what makes it so good. That's why when I say this movie's deeply funny, that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. That's so good. I love that. It's hilarious.
But yeah,
right,
that's
Conan.
no,
Oh,
that's
yeah,
it. That's
everyone
it. Go
was
Conan.
silent for a second.
Before we lose you again.
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. Nobody noticed. Certainly not me. Appreciate it when people point out incredibly obvious things on this show, which happens literally all the time. Yeah, this movie's great. It's deeply hilarious. Tracy Flick isn't a villain, but she's definitely Hillary Clinton. Take of that what you will. But there's more to it than that, and I think that's what makes it interesting.
All right. Well, we'll let Conan do his final thoughts in the old after party, which we're going to be going to in just a minute here. But I think this movie's pretty good, and fucking Tracy Flick ends up killing Gaddafi. So whatever you want to say about that.